Hello scrappers and planet lovers, Tin Man here with another video. So today what I want to do is take a look at several different types of power washers. You can find them often on garbage day, especially in the spring. And the nice thing about power washers is that they are loaded with great scrappable material. There's always a really heavy power cord. There is some brass on them, especially in the nozzle and on the fixtures there. There is a great copper bearing motor that has some cast aluminum on it as well, and other steel and metal items. So what I'm going to do today is show you some of the goodies that you can find not only inside these power washers, but also on the attachments. Show you how to identify the material, and more importantly, how to separate it properly, maximize your profit, and divert as much of this away from the landfill as possible. So this one I am just showing for purposes. They are very easy to take apart, and for the sake of time, I have already removed the outer screws from the body just to open it. I do also want to stress, before you take these apart, you do want to check if they work. I was lucky on one of my garbage runs. I saw a power washer. The gentleman was out there. I did ask him if it worked. He said the motor worked no problem. This worked. However, the hose that he had a cut in it. It didn't work anymore. It was leaking. So instead of buying another hose, he went out and bought another power washer. I brought this home. I had a replacement hose from another power washer that I found, hooked it up, no problem. And now I have a free power washer. So I can use that, or I can resell it. And resale value of a power washer, as well as any other type of electronic or appliance you find, is definitely going to be a higher price than you will get for scrap value. So rule, check to see if it works first before you take it apart. This one does not work, so I have no problem taking this apart. And as you can see, just from looking at it, there is a lot of spots where you are going to find brass. Right there is a nice hose connector. There is another one. Here is my great big appliance cord. These are heavy. This is about 45 pounds as is. There is some plastic, obviously, that has to be removed. And as mentioned, for the sake of this video, all I've done already is remove the outer screws. There are a number of them. And I will put those into a bucket. I will still get tin price for those. So I do want to move this one off to the side. Some of the items that you will find on these. The first one that I have, this nice hose. This is where the water comes out. And these are actually scrappable. If I put a magnet to it, you can see this one is magnetic. So this one actually has a really nice tin or steel coil that goes all the way around it. And because this is magnetic, I can actually throw this into my tin pile as is and get 8 cents a pound for it. This is a couple pounds. I don't have to worry about taking off the outer rubber part to it. The fixtures you do want to, or the connectors, you do want to check to see if they are brass. That is aluminum inside that little one. I'm not going to touch that because it's not very heavy, but sometimes your connectors can be brass. These ones are not. I've already checked. Very easy to do. If I take a file, if I do the scratch test, I can see right there that that is a metallic color, which means that's going to be aluminum. I can take that off if I want. Very easy to do, just unscrew it. But sometimes your bolts like this will be brass, so you want to scratch them. If they are scratched and reveal the gold underneath, then you definitely want to take those off because brass right now is going for $3 a pound. This one, however, is all magnetic except for that piece of aluminum. So I am leaving this, so 8 cents a pound for this. This, again, this is another style. This was off the hose as well. This one is non-magnetic, so this one is actually just going to be garbage. Unfortunately, you do want to check the connector. This connector does have a little bit of magnetic attraction there, so that is going to have some tin there. So I will cut this head off and put that into my tin, but the rest of this is garbage. Your nozzles, for sure, are a great item to look at. Some of them are different. This is actually from a different power washer. Just had to remove the outer screws. But inside of it, you do see sometimes the connector will be brass. This one is plastic, but that coil is going to be going into my tin pile. This connector goes to the bottom of the trigger. that does have brass right there. So again, if I scratch this, which I'm doing, you can see it's just a file. There is right there the gold color, so that is brass, so easy to take off. If it doesn't come off by screwing it off or unscrewing it, I will just take a grinder and open this crimp right here, pull it off and get that brass. The rest of this I can throw into my tin pile, but your nozzles for sure, definitely want to check those. There is always some really nice brass in here, as well as the ends. Sometimes they have the ends that are brass. This one is, however, all plastic, okay? But again, great item to get. And again, the rest of this plastic, unfortunately, I have to throw it into my garbage. I have had some viewers that say that their scrap yards will actually take this and put it into shred price for plastic. You do want to check with your area. That would be great if I can, but I've called around and unfortunately we can't do that where I live. But if I could divert it from the landfill, that would definitely be a great thing, as well as making some money on that. So Ontario, I hope you will follow suit with some of the other viewers who are getting that at different provinces, as well as in the States as well. So that is great if you can get that, and you definitely want to check around. Inside of this, as I said, very easy to do. I've already pulled the body off. That comes in 2 big pieces of plastic. So this was just like the model that you just saw there. Okay, a very easy shell, didn't have to break it. Sometimes you'll get 1 or 2 screws that can be a little stubborn, so you may have to just break a little bit of plastic. This one came off no problem. Okay, I had, just for educational purposes to show you, here is a smaller one that I had, but it's the same style. And interesting, I actually had a mini one like this, okay, in the picture at the start. So another smaller one, but just because it is smaller does not mean that it does not have these scrappable items in it. So I'm gonna show the small red one there first. I have this little motor here inside. This had a case. Once I opened it, I had some connectors to it, undid the screws, and there is a beautiful copper motor right there. I've already done the scratch test, but I will do it again for you just to show you. There is copper right there. So these copper motors, I can actually bring that copper motor into the scrapyard as is, and I will get copper bearing motor price, which is about 20 cents a pound right now, 15 to 25 cents a pound, which is a good price. But I'm gonna make a lot more money taking that copper out and selling it as number 2 copper. Number 2 copper right now is going for $4.43 in London, Ontario. So that, in my opinion, is definitely worth getting that out. As well, I have a small motor here, and all the other 3 motors, or other 2 motors, have the same style. Okay, nice thing, I was able to pull it all off together. Here is my motor from the yellow one. And notice this really heavy, thick power cord. And the biggest one that I just showed, the blue one, this had the power cord as well as my motor that I have in my vise, because I am going to take this apart for this video. These power cords, as is, are going to be classified as your number or 40% appliance wire. And I'm just going to cut one open. Right now, these cords are going for, in London, Ontario, $1.35 a pound. And when you look at appliance wire, the scrapyards will look at plastic to copper ratio and copper recovery. Because these wires, there are 3 of them inside, you can see, they have their own coating of plastic on it, as well as an outer coating of plastic. There is more plastic, less copper recovery in this, so you're gonna get your 40% appliance value. If I was to strip it, which I will not do because I'm gonna lose a lot of money from the outer coating, some people do that, but if I was to strip the outer coating and just get those 3 individual wires there and just have 1 coating of plastic, that would be upgraded to 60% appliance wire. And 60% appliance wire right now is actually going for $2.19 a pound in London, Ontario. So an excellent price as well. But as mentioned, I do not strip the outer coating off this because the outer wire on this, these are kind of like your dehumidifier cords, your microwave cords, a vacuum cleaner cords. In my opinion, stripping that outer coating, yes, I upgraded the value in terms of category, but I also lost the weight price that I was going to get from this coating. And I've done a couple experiments, vacuum cleaners, for example, proving that I lost money. Depends on where you are. I did get feedback from different people saying that they do it. They have different prices. So again, in London, Ontario, southwestern Ontario, where I live, I actually lose money. So it depends on where you live, I guess, and the rules at your scrap yards, and so definitely check. But for me, there is actually three pounds here. Some of these are 4 pounds. Some of them are 2.5 pounds, 2 to 3 pounds of beautiful appliance wire at 40% appliance wire. So as I said, $1.35 a pound for this. Excellent power cord for sure. And each one of them, as I said, has it. I do take off the brass. There are different styles. This one you can see has a big head on it. There's the brass. I pop that brass off, put it into my yellow brass. I am going to do an upcoming video just showing you what's inside of these, but there is going to be a little bit of copper inside of that, as well as a little bit of metal. But great appliance wire for sure on all three of these. Inside, mentioned the motor. The motor is going to be a little bit tricky if you don't have the proper tools. As you can see on this, there are some spots where you can just use a star screwdriver, but a lot of these also require you to have an Allen set. I have an Allen key security set that's multifunctional. This one is kind of special because you can see it has the little circle inside of it. There are no security screws on this, but some items like your microwaves, they have a little nub inside the bolt. These come in handy for that. But you definitely do need a set of Allen keys because all of these motors do have the Allen bolts. I have already taken off right here on the motor. You can see inside of that. These are nice thick screws. And I will answer a question someone had about metal or magnetic metal, if it's tin or it's steel. In order to classify it as steel instead of tin, the scrapyards will look at the thickness of the metal. The metal has to be thicker than 1/4 inch to be classified as steel. If it's not, it's going to be tin. So a lot of things like your outer panels from microwaves and appliances, because it is thin, it is tin. These screws, however, if I wanted to, I can throw them into my steel pile. I'm going to get a little bit more money, maybe a cent or two more a pound. But in my opinion, it's not worth it for me because I only get a little bit of steel. The bulk of my weight is tin, so I just throw them into a big container and I will get tin price for that. But as I said, thickness counts here. If it's 1/4 inch, structural beams, for example, I-beams, trampoline poles, those items are steel. So you do, if you have a lot of those, want to separate it from your tin or shred, as is where I'm refer to it where I live. So some bolts here. Okay, again, inside of here, once I remove the little motor, this is the big motor that I got. There are a couple components to this that I have that I've already opened. And the reason I had to open it was because there is a little bit of oil in it still that I am going to look at right now. I do also have a couple pieces right here. This is from the motor on this. Here's the oil I talked about. I had to dump it and turn it over. But this oil, I can't obviously work around that when I'm taking it apart. I always put it on a type of egg carton. It does help absorb the oil. But inside this motor, there are a couple components. There was a fan on the back. This fan had to be removed in order to take out that motor. You can see that this fan is non-magnetic, and this is actually aluminum. Sometimes I have seen fans that are magnetic. If it's magnetic, it's going to be tin. Non-magnetic, it's going to be aluminum. Sometimes I have also seen some that are stainless steel. And if it is non-magnetic, and it is, an item like this, you can do this, what I call the spark test. If I take my grinder and I hit the fins, if it is non-magnetic and it doesn't spark, it's aluminum. If it is non-magnetic and it sparks, it's going to be stainless steel. I've already done the test prior to this. This is non-magnetic and it is not sparking, so this is aluminum. And this is actually a pretty heavy fan. Aluminum right now, clean aluminum, that's what this would be classified as. It's going for about 56 cents a pound. So that's good. I just put it into my bin of clean aluminum. Inside that motor, I did have to remove a number of screws, and there are two pieces that fit together. This part here does have a little bit of brass on it that I'm gonna have to remove. There are a couple screws that I still have to take off, but the rest of this shell is going to be cast aluminum. Cast aluminum right now is going for about 50 cents a pound right now too. Because there is a couple screws in here that is making it magnetic, it can right there. I haven't removed those screws, but because there is still some magnetic attraction on that, this would be, if I brought it in as is, dirty cast, which is only giving me about 10 cents a pound. So you do want to make sure you take those screws off. Definitely get out the brass. There is also a couple other places where there is brass. I just saw it. Where is it? Where did I just see the brass? Oh, the screws here. There are a couple screws on here as well that are brass connectors right there. Sorry. That little, they can tell just by the gold or the green tinge there. So that's a brass bolt there I have to get out. This, as I said, is brass, but this is going to be cast aluminum. Inside of it, there are, I believe these are the pistons. I'm not sure with the terminology, but inside of these little holes here were 3 of these connectors. These are, they fit in like that. These are actually brass. So these are a nice little bit of brass. There's 3 of them here. You can see they just fall out very easy, but a nice piece of brass. Again, if I did my scratch test, you can see right there, that is brass. So all 3 of these, and brass is great because it does add up in weight very quickly. So some nice yellow brass that I'm just gonna throw into a bucket. Okay, the rest of this, I'm not gonna do anything other than just leave it. Because these pistons are not coming out, there are some parts on here that is magnetic still. So I'm just gonna throw this into my dirty cast. Again, some people will actually just throw it right into their tin, because tin right now where I am is going for about 8 cents a pound. So if I have a big load of tin going in, I'm not gonna bother with a little thing like this and just get the 2 cents of that. I'm gonna make an extra 7 cents. So I can throw this into my tin, no problem, and save myself, the mess. Inside this motor, now that I have taken it apart, this is going to be my money maker. So I have already hammered out the side. I do want to just quickly put it in my vise. I had to hit out the fan, as I said. This was the covering on that fan, okay, and it just popped off, so a little bit more plastic. And all I'm going to do, just to show you again, is take my hammer, pop it out. Okay, obviously I had to put a couple extra hits into it before, but inside of that, here is the component of my motor. There is, again, some cast on here as well. It is non-magnetic. This is magnetic. This is going to be steel, so I just throw this whole thing into my steel pile. But your motor, the money maker, is right there. Look at that beautiful copper. I do want to check, especially with nowadays newer models of motors, a lot of times they will look like copper, but if you scratch them and they reveal a metallic underneath, the copper is not copper, it is aluminum. So just to be sure, before I even start working on this, you can see that is a beautiful copper. So number 2 copper for this at $4.43 a pound. Gonna definitely get that out. I have as well, moving this shell is cast aluminum, and if I was to bring this in, this is very heavy. This is probably a good 6-7 pounds, so I could get motor weight price, but I'm gonna try and opening this. All I'm gonna do, and I've never actually done one of these big ones. I've always done the little ones, which are easier, but I'm actually just gonna take my grinder and I am going to try grinding this. As you can see, if I turn this, it is just a small shell. So I'm gonna use my grinder and open that to break it off so I can get at this copperberry motor. So I'm gonna put this in my grinder, put it in my vise, and there are different spots where the fins are not as deep, so I can get my grinder in there. You can see if I turn this fin is very deep, but here, these aren't as big a groove. So I'm gonna hit that right there, all the way down with my grinder. I make sure I put on my safety glasses. I do also wanna make sure I have a towel by, because there is still a little bit of oil residue, but here we go, I'm gonna try this. That is one pass. I'm going to see if that is going to be enough. I hit this. And I'm going to try now, just flipping it over. I'm going to see if I can just break it in half. So I'm going to do this side now. So the sparks are a good thing. It tells me that I got through. So because cast aluminum does not spark, this would have been the metal. So I can feel it right now coming off. Try this. Put this in. I can feel right now it coming out, so just got to tighten this a little bit. Just going to try, and now put my screwdriver in. And I'm just going to use a little bit of leverage here. You can see this is going to start coming out. Look at that thing. Look at this. Whew. This is a beautiful copper motor. I cannot wait to open this and get that out. So there we go. Just starting to peel it out right now. So, some cast aluminum, there it is, there's the shell, and there is a beautiful copper bearing motor here. And I actually have several videos on removing the copper out of these, and I'm actually just gonna upload or put that in my link. These are very easy to take out. All I'm gonna do is take my grinder, and I will actually just grind this one side all the way around, get this disc of copper out. And then I'm just gonna turn it around, turn it over, and I'm just gonna use leverage and pop this out. For the sake of this video and time, I'm not gonna do the whole thing, but I am going to include in my description below how much copper was in there. But again, very simple. Here's my grinder. I always, as well, when I'm cutting copper like this, I will have a reflective sheet, because when you're cutting or grinding copper, it does release some of the copper particles. So if I have a type of shield there, a catch basin, all of it that is cut and comes off will also be collected, and I can also put that into my number 2. So just gonna quickly show you. So you can see, started to go around the copper there. This whole thing will come off. I'm probably gonna have to put a bigger blade on this, because this motor is a very large one. Copper is not hard to cut through though. But as I said, a beautiful copper motor here. This as is, I'm telling you, is probably 14 pounds as is. It's a great weight, but that copper is going to be for sure the money maker when I remove it. You're gonna definitely get a better price for that copper than you will bringing that motor in as is. So again, I am going to put in the description the link to removing the copper from motors. There are different styles, especially if you look at this one compared to this one. That video does have all of these different styles, so gonna include that in the video. But power washers, again, excellent item. All three of them do have relatively the same components. Some of them will have a little bit more brass than others, a little bit more copper, but every one of them will have a nice copper motor inside. They will have a really nice cast aluminum shell around them. They all have a beautiful appliance wire, and depending on what is put out at garbage day, the nozzles will have different types of stuff in them too. The hoses can be scrappable. And with these, a lot of scrappable materials and not as much waste as if I was to bring the whole thing, throw it in the garbage. So hope you enjoyed that video. Please, again, continue asking the questions. Love the comments, the feedback. Please, again, some of you guys have included in the description or in the comments that your municipalities, the different rules they have in terms of waste and plastic. Look forward to reading those. Interested to see what the rules are in your region. So again, comment down below, like, share, subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one. Tin Man out.